Assalamu alaikum. Today we are learning about the story. Assalamu alaikum. Today I am telling you one story. The Elves and the Shoemaker. Let's start with the story. Once a shoemaker lived in a wife. Once a shoemaker lived with his wife in a little house. They worked very hard but still could not earn enough money to make both ends meet. See, a shoemaker and his wife. The shoemaker worked very honestly in his shop while his wife took care of the house. One day, the shoemaker had nothing left but leather for one pair of shoes. So, in the evening, he cut out the leather and left it in the shop, thinking, Tomorrow I will see you the shoes using this leather." At night, the shoemaker felt very upset and thought, "It's so hard for me to make a living these days." But then, leaving all his cares to God, he lay down quietly in his bed. The next morning, when the shoemaker went to his shop, he saw a beautiful pair of leather shoes just ready to be sold to any customer. The shoemaker and his wife were wonderstruck to think who had made the beautiful pair of shoes using the leather. The shoemaker placed the pair of shoes on display in the shop window. Soon after, a young man came in. He liked the shoes so much that he paid a handsome price for them, and the shoemaker was so happy. The shoemaker's wife cooked a nice meal and the couple sat on the dining table. The shoemaker said, "Now I can buy leather for 2 more pair of shoes." That evening, the shoemaker bought leather for making 2 pair of shoes. He cut out the leather for the shoes and left it in the shop again. "Wake me up early in the morning. I will sew the shoes and make them ready for display," said the shoemaker to his wife before going to bed. The next morning, the shoemaker reached his shop early. He was very excited to prepare the new shoes. But when he opened his shop, he was highly amazed to see the shoes ready. He was at a loss to follow who was doing his job at night. The shoemaker immediately rushed back home to tell his wife about the new shoes. "Who is helping us after all?" said his wife. That day also, when the shoemaker placed the shoes on display, 2 buyers readily came in and paid him a good price for the shoes. The shoemaker got enough money to buy leather for 4 more pairs. The shoemaker and his wife, though very happy, were also very amazed. "Who makes such beautiful shoes for us? They are so well made that they sell very quickly," said the shoemaker to his wife. This went on for a number of days. Night after night, the shoemaker would cut the leather and leave it on his workbench. In the morning, he would find new shoes magically finished, ready for sale. Needless to say, the shoemaker became a fairly rich man before long. One day his wife said, "We must find out who does all this for us after all." As usual, when the shoemaker had cut the leather for the new shoes, he said to his wife, "Let's hide and watch tonight who is lending us a help." The shoemaker's wife liked the idea, and the couple hid behind a curtain. From there, they could easily watch the workman bench without being seen. Just at midnight, 2 little elves jumped into the shop through the window and came to the workbench, skipping and dancing. The hiding couple were tongue-tied to see them. Thereafter, the 2 elves began to work at the cut leather. They stitched it back and forth with their little fingers very skillfully and quickly. Almost before the shoekeeper and his wife could think the work was all done, and the little elf skipped out of the window to vanish at once. The next morning, the shoemaker and his wife could not take their eye off the marvelous new shoes made by the elves at night. How skillfully these shoes have been made! The stitches are so fine indeed. They both just went on admiring the shoes for long. The shoemaker could not help admiring the elves. How their needles flew back and forth while their hammers beat rap-a-tap, rap-a-tap. The shoemaker said to his wife, "We must be thankful to our little helpers. What can we do for them after all? Their clothes were no better than rags. I ought to sew them new suits, and you should make them tiny boots," suggested the wife, and that was exactly what they did. When the suits and the boots were ready, the shoemaker and his wife left them upon the workbench for their little helpers to have them. The shoemaker and his wife were very happy now. Instead of cutting leather, they again hid behind the curtain to watch what the little elves would do. Just as before, when it was midnight, in jumped the little elves, seeing the new suits and boots lying on the workbench for them. They chuckled and dressed themselves up in their fine new clothes. Putting on the suits and the boots, the elves clapped their hands in rhythm. They both of them sang and danced, skipped and leapt out of the joy. The delighted elves were all thanks for the shoemaker couple in their heart of hearts. They capered playfully and out of sheer joy for a while, and at last skipped out of the window to disappear. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the little elves again, though good luck dawned upon them ever after.